Just reading a translation to that beautiful prayer that Prabhupada's sung every day for Bhagavatam class, and we continue. Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Braja, and the holder of the great hill named Govardhana. He is the beloved son of Mother Yasoda, the delighter of the inhabitants of Braja, and he wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Jamuna. Jai. Can everyone hear me okay? Is that better? Nasta prayesho vajeshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavate tamashloke bhakti bhavati nashtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. I think it's okay. Thanks. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottanam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Nara Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Ganangana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome. Is it anyone's first Bhagavatam class? Pardon? I said, is it anyone's first Bhagavatam class? I see a couple of... I am speaking quite loudly. Sorry. I'll try and speak louder. So today we're reading from 3:22:21, and Let me begin. Maitreya Vacha Sa Ugra Danvan Yadi Eva Baba Se Sa Ugra Danvan Yad Eva Baba Se Aschich Cha Tushnim Aravinda Nabham Aschich Cha Tushnim Aravinda Nabham Dio Pagrihan, sorry, let me start that one again. Dio Pagrinhanan Smita Sobitena, Dio Pagrinhan Smita Sobitena, Mukena Cheto Lulupe Devahutyaha, Saugra Danvan Iva Eva Babashe, Aschicha Tushnim Aravinda Nabham, Dio Pagrinan Smita Sobitena, Mukena Cheto Lulube Devahutyaha, Maitreya Vacha, Saugra Danvan Ihad Eva Baba Se, Aschichtash Tushlim Aravinda Nabham, Dio Pagrinan Smita Sobitena, Mukena Cheto Lulubhe Devahutyaha, Maitreya Vacha, Saugra Danvan Iyadeva Baba Se, Aschichash Tushnim Aravinda Nabham, Dio Pagrinan Smita Sobitena, Mukena Cheto Lulubhe Devahutyaha, Maitreya Vacha, Saugra Danvan Ihad Eva Baba Se, Aschichtashnidam Aravinda Nabham, Dio Pagrinan Smita Sobitena, Mukena Cheto Lulubhe Devahutyaha. Ladies? Maitreya Vacha, Saugra Danvan Iyad Eva Baba Se, Aschichash Tushnim Aravinda Nabham, Dio Bhagvinan Smita Sobitena, Maitreya Vacha, Saugra Danvan Iyad Eva Baba Se, Aschicha Tushnim Aravinda Nabham, Dio Pagrinan Smita Sobitena, Mukena Cheto Lulubhe Devahutyaha. Thank you. Our word for word, Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, Uvacha, said, Sa, he, Kadama, Ugra Danvan, O great warrior Vidura, Iyat, this much, Eva, only, Ababase, spoke, Asit, became, Cha, and, Tusnim, silent, Aravinda Nabham, Lord Vishnu, whose navel is adorned by a lotus, Diya, by thought, Ubagrinan, seizing, Smita Sobitena, beautified by his smile, Mukena, by his face. Cheta, the mind. Lulube was captivated. Devahutya, of Devahuti. Translation. Sri Maitreya said, O great warrior Vidura, the sage Kadama said this much only and then became silent, thinking of his worshipable Lord Vishnu, who has a lotus on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahuti, who began to meditate upon the great sage. What? Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. It appears that Kadama Muni was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness because as soon as he became silent, he at once began to think of Lord Vishnu. That is the way of Krishna consciousness. Pure devotees are so absorbed in thought of Krishna that they have no other engagement. Although they may seem to think or act otherwise, they are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling, he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. What a beautiful purport. Makes me think of Srila Prabhupada so much. So Prabhupada's pointing out here that Kadama Muni is always thinking about Krishna. Who finds it hard to think about Krishna all the time? It's not easy, is it? But for the pure devotee, because his heart is like a placid lake, it's very easy for him to think about Krishna. It's harder for us struggling souls. But in time, we can train ourselves to think of Krishna more. We get an injury, like the moment I've got a really bad rotator cuff injury, and then I think, oh, I can't dress Prabhupada, I can't do this, I can't do that. Then I think, oh, actually, I really deserve so much worse. So we can always, dovetail whatever we're doing in enabling us to think about Krishna, to meditate about Krishna. And when we catch our mind deviating, when we're chanting our japa and our minds, all of a sudden you go, where am I? I heard that mantra about 5 mantras ago, but my mind is just taking me off all over the universe. So it's a matter of discipline and practice. And the more we practice, the easier it will become. It may not happen immediately, but we just have to be determined and persevere. And if we have that determination and perseverance, Krishna is there, Krishna is in our heart, and he sees our sincerity, and he gives us all these lovely prompts as we go on in our lives and in our Krishna conscious life. It's almost like, well, it's not almost like, it is a fact that Krishna induces, one, the jiva to remember the Lord, describes that in Bhagavatam, and then he sanctions our service. And sometimes it's very easy for us to think, I'm so insignificant. How can Krishna even care about me? How would he even be bothered? He's there with his pure devotees, the gopis, he's enjoying in the most beautifully transcendental way. Why would he think about me? But actually Krishna does. And if you examine your life and you look to see how, it's almost like Krishna's given little breadcrumbs along the path for you. And you go, oh, wow, there's a breadcrumb, that's directing me in some other way, that's helping me in this way. And he does have his divine plan for us. And he's there witnessing all of our activities, he's there in our heart. And I've just been meditating on that a bit lately, that, going back in my own life, in different ways that Krishna has given me those breadcrumbs, led me to that path. It might have been the fact that a friend gave me a Bhagavad Gita, and in Ishvaku's very nice class on the Sunday feast, he was talking about, if you just read, even if you're not reading the purport, if you read the translation, each chapter, every day, it only takes, I think he said, about 10 minutes, was it, or 15 minutes? Of course, we want to read Prabhupada's purports. And for me, the Gita is something that I have such fondness for, because that was what brought me to Krishna consciousness. Someone gave me a Bhagavad Gita, a dear friend gave me a Bhagavad Gita, and he said, if you care about me, read this book. So I was always, very interested in Eastern philosophy, and he gave me this Bhagavad Gita, and I think it was a little Macmillan edition, and I read that with great attraction, because I'd been reading so many books on Eastern philosophy, and nothing was giving me a clear picture of what our life was meant to be. But when I read the Bhagavad Gita, it was like the penny dropped, and that was the beginning of my devotional life. So we've been studying a lot about Kadama Muni, very prominent figure in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and renowned for his deep meditation on Lord Vishnu. And in previous verses, we'd been learning that he meditated for 10,000 years. Of course, he came from a different yuga, so he had a very long lifespan. And he was born from the mind of Lord Brahma, and that was among the sages entrusted with the duty of creation. He was an ardent ascetic. And when I have to perform austerities, I'm not at all ardent about it. It's like, oh no, I've got to get up. I don't want to get up, especially as the cooler weather starts. But he was ardent. He embraced with enthusiasm the ability to perform austerities. And of course, the austerities that Prabhupada's given us are very pleasurable, actually. Getting up early, taking bath, coming to the temple, putting on nice fresh clothes, coming to the temple, being with the devotees who are like jewels, like gems that light our way, and coming to see the beautiful deities, chanting our rounds. These austerities are really not terrible austerities. What's more austere is having to live in this, dark pool of material existence, associating with people who are miserable and struggling. So we're very blessed, and we thank Prabhupada very much for this. So, and due to Kadama Muni's unwavering devotion, Vishnu appeared before him riding on Garuda. We've read that in the previous verses. And of course, Vishnu is adorned with brilliance. And then what happens when he sees the Lord? Kadama Muni immediately offers his heartfelt prayers, glorifying Vishnu's transcendental nature. So Vishnu then is very pleased with him, and he blesses him and gives him an instruction to enter Grihastha ashram, householder life, while still maintaining spiritual focus. And for Grihastha life, it's actually can be a very, very joyful teamwork. And we've got, our newlywed couple here, Daksha and his lovely wife Sajani, who was recently married. So it was a very joyous occasion, and I was very grateful to be the MC for that event. So householder life can be very conducive, actually, to spiritual life. It can be very conducive. You just have to work together as Team Krishna. Work out your differences, follow the rules, follow the regulations, and the Grihasthas are like the mainstay. They're the supporters of all of the different ashrams. The brahmacharis, the sannyasis, they're preaching, they're travelling, they have a lot of those commitments, and the Grihasthas are there to support them in this service. And Vishnu informed Kadama Muni that Devahuti was coming, his to-be wife. And I think in the next few verses, I think they actually, Kadama Muni says, yes, I will marry Devahuti. And then following Lord Vishnu's guidance, he then accepted her as his wife, and later they fathered the great Kapila Dev, who's an incarnation of Krishna actually. And this Kapila Dev is often referred to as Devahuti Putra, not to be confused with the atheistic Kapila. So this verse is a very sweet meditation on the pure devotee of the Lord, and the significance of a devotee's smile is very important. And when we think of Prabhupada's smile, when I recall of the times when I saw Prabhupada and saw that beaming smile, it's brilliant enough to light up our hearts. And just seeing Prabhupada was something that completely clicked on the switch, that you realise that I'm encountering someone of such uniqueness I've never ever, or any of us have ever met before. Completely unique individual. And there's a lovely story that Dinabandhu tells that he was, when he was living in America, Dinabandhu was, and they were all at the airport to greet Prabhupada. So everyone would go to the airport except devotees left behind trying to air out the freshly painted rooms. Prabhupada would often remark, everywhere I go, I smell fresh paint. Because we'd be up all night, you know, the night before, the day before, painting, so everything would be nice and fresh. And then Prabhupada would go, there's paint, fresh paint, everywhere I go. And of course we weren't all that organised that we would paint, you know, 2 weeks in advance. And often we didn't know when Srila Prabhupada was actually coming, because even telephone communications were pretty weird, especially calling from India. You'd get a telegram. If any of you young people heard of a telegram, it would be something that the post office would deliver, the postman would deliver, and it's a telegram, and Prabhupada would say, his secretary would say, arriving such and such a date, stop, such and such a time, stop. And then we wouldn't know if Prabhupada was coming at that time or not. And I remember the first time I saw Srila Prabhupada was actually, everyone had gone to the airport to pick him up. And of course, there was a mix-up when Prabhupada was arriving, and there was a knock on the door, and I heard this calling out, Prabhupada's here, Prabhupada's here. And I went rushing down out of the Brahmatrini ashram, and it was an old Victorian house in Burnett Street, St Kilda. And just as I got to the top of the stairs, the door opened, and Srila Prabhupada was standing in the frame way of the door. And I just get chills when I think about it. It was like the effulgence of 1,000 suns. It was so incredible seeing Prabhupada framed in that doorway. It couldn't have been, arranged even more perfectly. And Prabhupada's effulgence filled the room. And Jayapataka Maharaj, before he was a devotee and when he first joined, he could see auras. And he describes that Srila Prabhupada's aura filled the entire room with this golden light. And when the temple president said to Srila Prabhupada, Bhakta Jai, he can see auras. And Prabhupada said, don't worry, that'll go away. Because it would have been a bit of a distraction. Anyway, I want to get back to that story. So Prabhupada arrived at the airport in America, and all the devotees were there offering obeisances, of course. And Dinabandhu was standing offering obeisances near this cleaner who was cleaning the airport. And he could hear the cleaner saying, that man's shining, do you see that? He's shining. And even non-devotees were seeing the beautiful effulgence of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, and pure devotee, and devotees, their smile is genuine and non-duplicitous. Often smiles are used in material life to, attract someone to you or, get them on your side. But a devotee is their smiles are genuine, and Srila Prabhupada, of course, had the most genuine, the most beautiful smile. And when he was very pleased, it was very, very broad. And Prabhupada was, quite grave, actually, but he had a brilliant sense of humour, and his smile, when he smiled, was like a salve on our tortured hearts.
So it's really important to smile. And here Kadama Muni, he's smiling silently because he's meditating on the Lord. So we don't have to go around with a smile on our dial that's kind of false. But it's actually really good to smile, because when you do smile, you're actually bringing up a lot of good hormones in your body, in your own body. And when you see other people and you smile, they also feel, oh, this person likes me, they're smiling. And I've noticed sometimes that, devotees don't smile, and you think, oh, are they unhappy to see me, or are they just unhappy? So what happens when you smile, it releases this feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. So it's not just okay, I'm smiling, that's it. It actually is really good for your physical and mental well-being, and it's very good for other devotees. So, we're meant to be personalists. You don't want to be an impersonalist. An impersonalist doesn't care really about what other people are feeling. They don't really care about, greeting people. And it's so important when people come to the temple, that may be their first time they've come to the temple. And when they see a smiling devotee, oh, Hare Krishna, how are you? Where have you come from? Come from Brisbane, Gold Coast? Please come up to the temple. The program starts soon, then there'll be prasadam. It makes such a difference, and you can see their reaction. Isn't it? When you go to a new place and someone smiles at you and greets you nicely. So we're all representing Srila Prabhupada. And we're representing his movement, which is a preaching movement. We want to give Krishna. We want to alleviate all the suffering. Just like Prabhupada when he was going to botanical gardens in Melbourne, and Chudahari Prabhu was sitting with Prabhupada in the back seat, and there was a driver. And Chudahari was looking out the window. It was commuting time, peak hour traffic, and he was thinking, oh, all these poor people, they're like little rats on a treadmill, and here I am sitting with the spiritual master of the universe. So he was thinking like that, and then he looked over to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had tears coursing down his lotus cheeks, and he looked at Chudahari and said, how can they be saved? So Prabhupada's love for all living entities, devotees, non-devotees, it's just a matter of time. Or I always like to think potential devotees. So it's really important that, we learn how to be, to greet people nicely. A smile doesn't cost anything. And, as this says, it will actually contribute to reducing your stress, your pain relief, and improve mood. Smiling helps improve neural communication by releasing, and there's a lot of scientific words here, neuropeptides like prolactin, vasopressin, and oxytocin. The result of the release of these help lower stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. So let's all smile and you'll feel better. So it helps reduce blood pressure. There's a whole lot of wonderful things that a smile does. And we can meditate on Krishna's beautiful smile, Radharani's beautiful smile, and we can meditate on Srila Prabhupada's beautiful smile as well. So in this verse it describes how Devahuti's mind became captured by seeing Kadama Muni's smile. He wasn't laughing, he was just smiling very quietly, very sweetly, because he was immersed in meditation upon the Lord. And everyone is attracted to purity. That's actually what is very attractive, this pure personalities. They're very attractive to living entities. And Prabhupada, of course, he attracted the minds and the hearts of all of his disciples and grand disciples and great grand disciples, and it will go on. And we can please don't feel that, I didn't have an opportunity to see Prabhupada, I was initiated by Prabhupada. But no, your connection with Prabhupada is there. And you would have heard devotees tell you that actually the grandfather, he's more kind than the father to his children, and the great-grandfather as we go on. So how do you become immersed in Srila Prabhupada? By reading his books, by studying his books, listening to Prabhupada memories. Does anyone listen to Prabhupada memories or watch them? Highly recommend. You can get them on YouTube. It's really easy. Just key in Prabhupada memories and you'll have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clips of devotees talking about their memories of Srila Prabhupada, and you learn some amazing things, different things that you hadn't, perhaps come across, in the normal course of events. So reading Prabhupada's books, studying them, coming to class, coming to Bhagavatam class, listening to his lectures, listening to the Prabhupada memories, and then very soon your relationship with Prabhupada will become very strong. So of course, we want to aspire for initiation by, I think, more than 80 of ISKCON's living gurus. That's very important because the spiritual master you can ask questions of, right? You have someone who's right there, given you the name, the holy name, given you initiation, and that spiritual master is there to guide you. But you always have your connection with Srila Prabhupada. So if by some very unfortunate circumstances something happens to your spiritual master, you still have Srila Prabhupada. If by some chance there's, a fall down or something like that, when you have that strong relationship with Prabhupada, then you're buoyed. You can be carried through any turbulence. So Prabhupada frequently spoke about Kadamba Muni's deep devotion and constant remembrance of Krishna, and he emphasised that Kadamba Muni, despite being a great yogi and mystic, never forgot Krishna at any stage of his life. And devotees once asked Prabhupada, "Srila Prabhupada, have you always remembered Krishna? Have you always, as a child, have you always remembered Krishna?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "I do not remember a time that I did not remember Krishna." So when you read Prabhupada Lilamrita, and please read Prabhupada Lilamrita, it's Srila Prabhupada's authorised biography. You can get a condensed version called Your Ever Well Wisher. Otherwise, the full version is a number of volumes, but it's very wonderful, very, very wonderful. And we learn how Srila Prabhupada, just as a little boy, he was getting a Ratha Yatra together. He was, kind of organising the whole neighbourhood. And Ratha Yatra, of course, was very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says in third canto, "A real yogi does not neglect to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kadamba Muni, a real yogi, could not remain satisfied simply with meditation. He wanted actual perfection." So this means that Kadamba Muni's constant remembrance of the Lord wasn't mechanical. It was a naturally evolved state of mind. And then Prabhupada also said that in 323.1, Kadamba Muni was not an ordinary yogi, he was a great devotee, a Mahatma. He knew that simply by discharging devotional service, he would himself be perfect and would make his wife perfect also. So, it's quite a big thing to do when you're a husband. You have to give nice association to your wife. And of course the wife gives very nice association to the husband. It's not that the wife isn't spiritually advanced. And when we read about Devahuti, she was actually a very great yogini, a very, very great yogini. So together they were very absorbed and very involved in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada says that he says that Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. That is real yoga. So, Hatha yoga is very valuable for the body. Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita that if you practice Hatha yoga asanas, practically speaking, you can remove disease. And it's also very good for any mental conditions, any mental health challenges. Doing asana can be very helpful. But the real yoga means connection with God. That real yoga is when we're meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we do that in Kali Yuga. The best way of doing that is by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I remember I was in Prabhupada's room once and just thinking about how, Prabhupada's always focused on remembering Krishna. I was in Prabhupada's darshan room in Mayapur one year, and one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, does the pure devotee always see Krishna? And then Prabhupada held out his right hand, and as if there was a drop of water in the hand, he said, if there's a drop of water in the hand of a pure devotee, he sees not only Krishna, he sees all of the associates, all of the cowherd boys, and all of the cows. And everyone was sitting there in stunned silence, thinking, who is this Srila Prabhupada? Who is this Vaikuntha man? And Prabhupada referred to his spiritual master as a Vaikuntha man, and we often refer to our Srila Prabhupada as a Vaikuntha man. So even after entering householder life, Kardama Muni remained devoted, and he did not lose sight of his spiritual goal. So we don't need to renounce everything, but we need to shift it. We need to shift it so we're cultivating our Krishna consciousness. We like to eat. Most of us like to eat nice food, so we eat only prasadam. And once again, all these old memories are popping up in my brain. I remember when one devotee, she'd just gotten married, and then the grihastas didn't live together. And he'd come to visit her in the Brahmacharini ashram where she was living, and I happened to be there. And she'd offered him a little plate of dried figs. And he put the fig in his mouth, and then he went, "Is it offered?" And she went, "Oh, is it offered?" And he spat it out. So it's... It was very funny. I remember it more than 50 years later. We were just like stunned. Oh my goodness, it's not prasadam, it's a bhoga. So even if you're on the road, you're doing a sankirtan, and you've might have to buy a packet of potato crisps or something like that, don't forget to at least Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu it. And I was told this very funny joke once that Vishnu said to Krishna, "What did you have for lunch today?" And Krishna said, "Oh, well, I had chapatis, I had puris, I had malpuras, I had jackfruit sabji, I had all of the list that Krishna had." And he said to Vishnu, "Well, what did you eat?" And Vishnu went, "Packet of chips," which I thought was such a cute joke. So, trying to be mindful, what are we eating? Trying not to eat too many processed food, trying to only eat prasadam, making sure if you're not eating at the temple, making sure that you're offering your food. If you're out on the road and you're eating an apple, make sure you offer it, even if it is a Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, it's better than nothing. So, and trying to just think of ways that in our day-to-day life, how we can immerse ourselves in thoughts of Krishna. Set the tone, early morning rising, getting nice rounds chanted, coming to the temple when you can, seeing the deities, seeing the devotees, making friendship with devotees. It's very interesting that we are a society of personalists, right? God is not just a divine effulgence, not just a light, not a white light, which I used to think before I was devotee, that God was a white light. There is white lights, of course, around Krishna, but that's his effulgence, that's the Brahma Jyoti. But it's about trying to develop, to really be personable. Make friendship with devotees. We're all living together, one way or the other, either in an ashram, or we come to the temple, or we're in Krishna Pad, or we're down at Krishna Village, trying to really strike up nice friendships with devotees, so that when a devotee is having a difficult time, or someone's having a difficult time, they can go to that person. Oh, this person is my friend. They can give me some good advice. They can give me some support. So for devotees, even though we are meant to be the most personable, sometimes we can be a little impersonal. We can just be worried more about ourselves and not about our comrades. And there's another very funny story I heard once, that this gentleman had been coming to the Sunday feast class for 20 years. Every Sunday feast he was coming, someone in America. And he was talking to one of the devotees, and the devotee said, "You've been coming every Sunday." Now, we only have Sunday feasts here once a month, but it used to be every Sunday, and in most other temples around the world it's every Sunday. And they said, "How come you don't join? You've been coming, you're a devotee, you come every week to the Sunday feast." And he went, "Oh no," he said, "I've seen how you devotees treat each other. I'd much rather stay where I am, and then I come into the temple and I get treated really nicely." So, that was a really sad indictment that, no, we've got to think about other people, not just about ourselves. Of course, we want to focus on our Krishna consciousness. We want to be, have good association. But, we want to try and follow in Prabhupada's footsteps, which is one of compassion. How I can care for other people, how I can love other people. And that was Prabhupada's mood. Srila Prabhupada was the Uttama Adhikari, top-level devotee. Paramahansa, top level. But for preaching purposes, he came down to the next level, which is Madhyama Adhikari. Because the Uttama Adhikari, he sees everyone as a devotee. He sees everyone as the same. But for purposes of disseminating Krishna consciousness, we have to discriminate between who is a envious, who's has antipathy, who's an innocent, right? So they descend to that Madhyam Adhikari platform. But Srila Prabhupada's motive was always, how can they be saved? So I think it's an important point to meditate upon, is that, having that genuine compassion and that genuine kindness, and smile a bit. Doesn't cost anything, and you'll get all of this serotonin and lower your stress levels, and it'll be very beneficial. So I think we can end now. Let me just have a look and see if I've missed any points. Oh yeah, one lady asked Prabhupada once what Krishna consciousness is all about. And Prabhupada answered that Krishna consciousness means we always think of Krishna. She replied, how do we always think of Krishna? We have so many other things to do. Prabhupada gave a practical reply. We can be conscious of our appearances, just like we make sure how our hair is neat, and so on. In the same way, we can be conscious of Krishna. We are prepared. So thinking about Krishna becomes just part of our life. And, pray to Krishna. He's there in your heart. He can hear you. He listens to you. And he gives, guidance when we're open to that guidance. And, I live by myself, so it's quite interesting. Sometimes I'll walk around the house and I'll be talking to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, I'm so tired. Oh, Krishna, my shoulder's hurting. And, Krishna's our dear friend. And we're very fortunate because he is there. He is our dear friend. And let's be friends to the devotees. Let's be friends to all of the jivas and even the ant. I was listening to a lecture by Prabhupada this morning as I was getting ready to come to the temple. And Prabhupada said a devotee doesn't even harm an ant. And I felt really bad because I harmed some ants on my shelf the other day, trying to tap them away, and then I wiped them away. And Prabhupada said that's very dangerous. Even an ant we don't harm. Of course, a snake that's poisonous, that's one thing. Mosquito that's biting us, something's attacking us, we can defend. But in general, we are not, we're very careful about even where we walk. We try not to hurt any living entity. So, are there any questions? Or comments? Feedback? And Rupa Raghunath Prabhu is one of our lovely smiling devotees. He always greets us with a smile.
Thank you so much for your class. You were saying in the beginning that you got a Bhagavad Gita on the street and started from there, your Krishna consciousness?
It was through a friend, actually.
Yeah.
He gave me the Gita.
All right. So yesterday I received a call and I didn't have the name with the number. And I was trying to think who it was, and it sounded to me like Prabhupada disciple Krsnarupa Prabhu in South Australia.
Oh, right.
And it was. He said, I'm Krsnarupa Das. And he said he was after a Bhagavad Gita. He wants me to send him a Bhagavad Gita. And he said he got a Bhagavad Gita on the street in Swanston Street in Melbourne in 1972 from Buddhimanta.
Oh, right.
One of the first book distributors in the movement. And he said he had $10. He was like a workers building labourer or something like that. And his daily wage was $10. Now it's about $200 or something like that. So he was saying that that's all he had in his wallet. And Buddhimanta asked him for that $10. So he gave the $10 and he was expecting change. And then he said to Buddhimanta, oh, can I get a little change? I don't have any money to eat anything. And Buddhimanta Prabhu said, oh, no, that's all right. You can come to the temple and just leave your $10. They can go to the temple for Krishna and you can come to the temple every day as much as you want and eat lovely food, prasadam, So Dayasara started coming to the temple every day. And then after, coming many, many days in a row, after a month or two, he joined up.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you very much. And prasadam is, it's such a remarkable thing. I was a vegetarian before I became a devotee, but I just lived on brown rice and a few steamed vegetables, and I didn't know what to eat, handful of nuts or something. And the first time I went to the temple, it was a Sunday feast, and I was just so astonished at this prasadam. It was just, something I'd never ever experienced. And in those days, we had learnt that Srimati Radharani liked camphor, and they would make this, on the Sunday feast, they would make this red chutney out of plums or something, they call it Radha Red, but they would put so much camphor in it, and I don't even know if it was camphor or mothballs, who knows, but no, I think it was camphor. But they would over sprinkle put the camphor in it, and I was eating this Radha Red thinking, what is this? Eating the camphor. It was very interesting, but yeah, we're really, prasadam was Prabhupada's secret weapon. And he would feed the devotees so much prasadam. Have more, have more, have more. Personally cook it, personally serve it, and then wash all the pots. That's Srila Prabhupada. Then finally, after some, time, devotees kind of went, maybe we should help wash the pots rather than, elderly gentlemen having to wash the pots. But Prabhupada took great delight, and I was watching this Prabhupada memory the other day, YouTube thing on Prabhupada, and he was handing out the Mahaprasad to all of the children, after his darshan, after class. And one devotee tried to take that from Prabhupada, you don't have to hand it out, we'll hand it out. And Prabhupada went, no. He wanted to give it. And then when he would give it, he'd press it into the hand. He just wouldn't drop it, he'd press it. So you get that beautiful mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And just reflecting on Prabhupada's humour here, in Mayapur, there was one little boy, the son of a god sister of mine, Rasamandala, and he was about 2 and loved Sandesh. And Prabhupada was handing out, the Maha Sandesh. And this little boy, he was just in ecstasy to get the Sandesh from Prabhupada. And he'd put this Sandesh in this little boy's hand. The little boy would put it in his mouth, and I can't lift my arm, but then he would, because I've got a rotator cuff injury, but he would wipe his hand on his little seeker and then put the hand out for some more. And then sometimes Prabhupada would pretend that he was putting the Sandesh in, and he wouldn't, and the little boy would look, where's the Sandesh? And he got so fired up to get that Sandesh, he tried to climb up on Prabhupada's Vyasasana. So Prabhupada loved to distribute prasadam, and he always made sure that there was a large glass jar of gore balls made out of coconut and molasses, that he would make sure any guest would come, they'd receive some prasadam. Anything else? Pamalochan Prabhu?
Thanks for a lovely class. I may have told you this story before, but when you were talking about when you met Prabhupada, or certain occasions when you've seen Prabhupada and the potency that he had, when I first met the devotees, my grandma had 2 friends, Vivian and Dorothy, and they were originally from London, and they moved to Australia when they were quite young. And they said one day when they were young teenage girls, I think they must have been around 18, 19 at the time, they were sitting on a plane, I think it was in London, and they said they seen a couple of monks walk on the plane, and they were kind of interested. Oh, look, there's a couple of monks on the plane. And they said then they just seen Srila Prabhupada walking behind these 2 men, and I think they were around 70 when they were telling me this story. And they said still to that day, that's probably the most memorable moment of their life, just seeing, they knew who he was after that, they knew that was the leader of the Hare Krishna movement. But they said still to that day, they think about that moment a lot. And that's just Srila Prabhupada walking past them. They never joined the movement, they never looked into it or anything like that. But that was such a powerful moment in their life. And they were followers of Jesus, and I remember when I first joined 2015, I seen them both, and they said, look, we really love what you do, we're followers of Jesus. And they said, but that moment in our life, that's the closest thing we've ever seen to the things that we read about, someone like Jesus and his preaching and things like this. Just completely touched their hearts, just walking past them. They said he was so beautiful, the way he carried himself, his potency.
That's a wonderful...
Very special. And they thought about it their whole life.
And where are they going to be in their next life?
Yeah,
they'll be devotees, that's for sure.
Yeah, so they were very happy, and we looked at photos together, and it was a very special moment.
Just for them to have that appreciation, it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Beautiful story.
And with the smile, Mother Teresa would always say that when I come into contact with people, I want people to see, God within my eyes, God within my face, and God within my smile.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of smiling for us today and tomorrow and the day after, because we're so fortunate that we've here with Krishna, with Prabhupada, we've got everything to smile about. Jai Hari Bol, thank you so much for listening. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.